everyone. Welcome to Marsha's Sacred Circle Community live stream. One of the things that I've been called to write on, especially, is that there is a rising above and then there's a spiritual bypassing. And I believe that it is a very fine line. There is a huge disconnect in the spiritual community. It floors me, to be honest. It floors me because it is not something I ever expected from the spiritual community. I very much believe that when we reach a certain level of our spiritualness, of our spiritual journey, we have an obligation to not only hold space for others, but to take action. And I believe, I was just in the middle of writing an essay about this. I really believe that especially people in the spiritual community, they tend to bypass that by saying, oh, I'm above this, I'm enlightened now, I'm awakened. And that's just bypassing. That's where we have to have true discernment. Who is in their integrity? Who is walking the walk and not just talking the talk? Who is embodying this by their actions? And actions matter. It is not just about meditating and doing yoga. It's also about how are we going to take care of our neighbors? How are we contributing to mutual aid? How are we being of service to people? And especially those who are struggling, especially those who are suffering. Are we going to ignore that by saying, I'm enlightened now, I'm above that? Or are we going to actually sit in the trenches with them? And that's not to say that you're going to suffer with them. You're at such a state where you have achieved that peace, you have achieved that level of awareness that you don't have to suffer with them. But that's where you're holding space for them and also taking action to support whatever people are going through. And I feel like in the spiritual community, there is such an avoidance and such a bypassing of that. And it blows my mind because I never expected the spiritual community to be part of that. But having been part of the spiritual community for many, many, many years, I see that, and especially with the division that we're seeing. I also see the unity that's coming from it, but the unity is not coming from the people that I would expect it to be coming from, which is very disheartening, disappointing, and interesting to me. That's why I'm no longer part of the yoga community I was part of for 2 years. Yeah. Yeah, there are spiritual teachers that I had followed for many years. And even some of the things that I channeled, they would later, they having like much larger followings, they would channel. And so I felt like we were on the same page. But then, over the past couple of years, there was a shift in their messaging. There was a shift in what they were experiencing. And I could no longer align with what they were saying. Um, and I just didn't understand it. I felt like I was being gaslit. Like I've actually been having a really hard time because I feel like if this spiritual teacher who I have respected for so long and who has this huge following is saying this, then am I wrong? And I am humble enough that I can be wrong. I don't mind being wrong, but in my soul knows that I'm not. My soul knows that taking care of our neighbors, taking care of each other is what the most important thing is. And when you see a community, and I don't even want to call it a community, when you see a group of people who are also part of the spiritual community, when you see a group of people who are maybe not promoting violence, but who are reiterating rhetoric that promotes violence or that promotes uh, more struggle for people or that promotes taking something that people need away, healthcare and food resources and food security and immigration, when it's more division than it is inclusive. And when you see that, it makes you question everything. And it blows my mind. And I have cried and I have questioned and I have doubted. And that questioning is how I know that I'm on my path, that I'm on the right path for me. Because it's only when you question that you're able to see all points of view and all perspective. It's only when you question that you're able to actually discern the truth. Discernment doesn't come from anything outside of yourself. Discernment comes from within yourself, and only when you're able to allow those questions and the willingness to look at all sides, the willingness to be wrong. Because it's not about right or wrong. It's just about truly what is the soul's truth. And for me, my soul's truth says that I don't want any part of any community that is going to create more harm and more destruction just for the sake of of ruin. And that's what I'm seeing in the spiritual community. It's like they're saying, yes, there has to be destruction. And I'm for that too. The systems that we had are not working. But I don't believe in destruction for destruction's sake. I don't believe in destruction if we're not going to create something better from it. And something better doesn't come from somebody outside of ourselves. It doesn't come from a guide, a guru, from a president. It comes from all of us working together. And that's the unity that I'm actually seeing, but not in the way that the spiritual community claims. It's actually coming from people who are coming together and saying, hey, this is not okay. And that gives me great hope. But honestly, it does feel, I'm glad that you're saying this, because it does feel like I have felt like I'm very alone in this, especially as a teacher and a channeler. I have felt like I've been very alone in the spiritual community, looking at all these other teachers and channelers and saying, what am I missing? What am I missing? And constantly asking myself and God, what am I missing? And I actually don't think that you're as alone as you think. Which is something that I'm discovering myself. You're definitely not as alone as you think you are. The people who are screaming loudest, it's just that they're loud. That's all it is. They're just loud, right? They have the platforms, they have the followers, they're just loud. But at the end of the day, I feel like it's the people who are truly in their integrity, who are truly in their self-respect, who are truly following the soul's path, and who are in genuinely following unity consciousness, genuinely following the path of love. They might not be as loud, but their message is genuine. Their message is in integrity, and their message does have high discernment. So I think that you're not as alone as you think you are, and I say that for myself too. Yeah, it's very crazy making. It is very crazy making. It feels like it feels like it's gaslighting, like 100%. Like there's a whole community that is being gaslit and thus regurgitating that gaslighting to their own community, and it blows my mind. Anyway, I can't talk about it so much, because, or even channeling about it so much, but when I write about it, it becomes very clear. So I actually have a series of essays that I've been working on just to get it out and to help me process it. And once I process it and get it out, I know that I'm going to anchor more fully into myself, and not have that, what am I missing? Because I'm constantly saying, what am I missing? What am I missing? Because I truly am trying to look at it from every angle. But at the end of the day, what feels right to me is love. At the end of the day, what feels right to me is taking care of each other. At the end of the day, what feels right to me is uniting, not creating more division, which is truly what we're seeing. And it boggles my mind, because the spiritual community is like, they're saying, oh, you're just under an illusion. You're not as awakened as you think you are. Well, I think it's the quite opposite. I think it's those who are truly awakened who are able to see, yes, beyond the illusion. But how many layers of illusion are there, right? How many layers? And that's the thing, when you go through your ascension journey, you see just how many layers there are. And when you're going through an awakening, you can very easily get caught up in consciousness loops, and that's what I'm seeing is just continuous consciousness loops. It is a serious trigger, yeah. It's a serious, and the fact that you have experienced that on a personal level means that you're able to understand what's actually happening on a higher perspective too, that you can see the warning signs, you can see the red flags. That's huge for me. Like, especially as a teacher, like I feel like I need to keep calling that out. Like, I can't be silent. Like, I'm not allowed to be silent. As much as I want to shut up, it's like I can't. That's why I keep writing these essays. That's why I keep talking about it. It's because, number one, I'm processing it, but number two, it's like, you know, no. Like even if it means me standing alone. I was just saying to myself and to God this afternoon, because I was really going through it this afternoon. I was really feeling like having a really hard time holding space for everybody, holding space when I felt like, what the hell is going on here? With what I'm seeing. Like, I see the comments, I see the video posts, I see, these teachers, and it's like, I just don't get it. I don't get it. Like, these are people that I held in high esteem. And that's why I ask myself, am I missing something? Especially because they have these huge platforms. Am I missing something? At the end of the day, what I was communicating with God was, at the end of the day, I have to trust myself. And not only trust myself, but trust who I've always been and what I've always believed in. And what I've always believed in, number one, is education. The more educated we are, being well read, being well informed, the more that we can think critically and problem solve and make those decisions not just for ourselves but with other people. Number two, mutual aid, taking care of each other, making sure that it's not just me and mine, but that it's ours. It's a we situation, working with each other. And all I'm seeing is me and mine. All I'm seeing oh, you're just under the illusion. Anything that's counter to this rhetoric is just under an illusion. And that is just mind blowing to me. And so I said to God, I said, you know what? I'm going to keep speaking out about this. If I implode my whole business, if I lose every single follower, I said, at least I know I'm standing in my integrity. At least I know that I'm standing in my self respect. At least I know that I'm following my heart and my soul that wants the best for everybody. That's not just destruction for destruction's sake, that it's not just, let's just burn everything down and not build back up. And that's what's happening. Like, we're literally burning everything down. We're literally creating destruction, but it's destruction for destruction's sake. Not only that, it's destruction's sake at the cost of innocent lives. And you can, in the spiritual community, there's a lot of sitting back and just saying, oh, let's just see what unfolds, like it's a theater, right? And yes, there is truth to that. There is truth that there's more than meets the eye. There's truth that all the world is a stage, as Shakespeare said. But there's also truth that we are in a living reality, that we're also human, having a human experience. And so, yes, we're spiritual beings, but we're also having a human experience. And there is no way in hell I will create more suffering for my fellow brothers and sisters. No way in hell. No way in hell I will participate in more suffering. And so I said to God, if I have to lose everything, if I implode my whole business, my whole platform, if I lose every follower, I said, you know then that's what happens. But I'm not gonna um undermine my own integrity. I'm not gonna lose that and what I believe in. You have to have the courage of your own convictions too. And especially in the spiritual community, it feels like I'm not even part of the spiritual community anymore. And quite frankly, I don't know where I belong. But that is what it is too. I know where I belong in my journey. I know where I belong in my connection relationship with God. And I have felt Yeshua every step of the way, especially the past 6 months, just continuing to guide me through this experience, knowing that he experienced something very similar, that righteous anger, that sacred rage, that, that saying of, how his own teachings were perverted. His own teachings were misconstrued and twisted. And man, I can't abide. I can't abide by that. I can't abide by pain for pain's sake. I just can't. You also lost friendships talking about it to process prior to your divine counterpart, Catalyst. Yeah. You have just got to follow the path of the soul. That's what it comes down to. Just follow the path of soul. And that's what your ascension journey teaches you too. It's just to hold that light. For the past couple of months, I didn't quite understand this, but for the past couple of months, we've been talking about keeping your circle smaller, prioritizing the people who are closest to you, that you trust. Keeping that circle small doesn't mean that you're not engaging or talking or socializing, or networking and things like that. It doesn't mean that you're not part of the great big world, but keep that circle small. And the reason is, for number one, for your own mental health, is what they just said, but also because that's how we have that ripple effect. It's not about creating an echo chamber for ourselves. That's the opposite of what they're saying. It's more about the more that we are able to feel supported and offer that support in that energy of true love, In that, and pure love is really the phrase, in that energy of love, in that energy of sincerity, the more that's going to have a ripple effect, the more that's going to make a difference. If, like, for myself, because I do the work that I do, I'm constantly holding space for others. And like I said, today and yesterday, I just felt like I was at capacity and I felt very overwhelmed. I wasn't operating from that place of overflow. And so, like, I'm glad that we're doing this today, but I even felt like maybe I should even move this sacred circle because I was at capacity. I didn't have the capacity to hold space for anybody anymore. Sometimes the healer needs healing, sometimes the holder needs holding. And so, especially with personal experiences where I've been holding space for others in my life, it felt very, I felt very drained. And so God kept saying, bring it back to yourself. God kept saying, fill yourself up on me, keep turning to God for as that source. And that's what I kept doing, and just keeping my circle smaller so that I can be in that overflow again, so that that light can keep expanding and extending. So keep your circle small so that you can be in overflow versus that overwhelm. Whew. It is intense energy right now. And March, with all of this astrology, it is increasing that intensity. There's a lot that is demanding our attention. There's a lot that is wanting us to leak our energy and distract us. And so that's where we have to just continue to keep our energy, sacred, and keep our circle smaller, and just do what we can to keep nurturing ourselves. And again, keep turning to God as that source. God is the source of all. I really feel this dueling aspect for myself where I want to be here for my community. And I know that I'm meant to be teaching. I know that I'm meant to be channeling. I know that I'm meant to be in this role. But I also really just want to go into a cottage in the woods and just write and read and be with my animals and just leave me alone. So there's like two different parts of me that is like dueling right now. And that's where I kind of feel like I've had it. And I know from experience that that's because I'm upgrading, that that's because I'm shifting in myself, in my identity, in my embodiment. I know that that's what's happening. So it's like there's two different versions of myself that's at war within myself right now. There's so much momentum, there's so much that's changing. I've seen those changes in my physical life. It is unsettling. It is unsettling. I do feel like by the end of the year, for many of us, it's going to be a completely different life, a completely different experience. Um, in a positive way. I mean, I do feel like all the changes that we're experiencing now are preparation for what we're creating. Planting seeds for what we're going to be nourishing, and how we're going to be blooming in a new sense of ourselves and our journeys. So I do feel that, and that's kind of like the only thing that's kind of getting me through right now. But yeah, it feels, it just feels, I'm so done. I just feel so tired and so done. Anchoring to that center, finding that balance, finding that calm within, and knowing that even though there is a storm, that you don't have to be impacted by it. You can hold space for others. And that's exactly what we're doing here in the sacred circle, holding that space for others who might be more unconsciously impacted by it. What they're also saying is be prepared. Make sure you have flashlights and candles and batteries and all sort of food, and like be prepared, but don't be prepared in a fearful way. And again, that's a message for the collective as well. Be prepared, but not in such a fearful way, not in an ego-driven way. The ego is fearful because it gets into survival mode, right? The soul is saying, take action, be prepared in these active ways, in these action steps. But it's not in such a place of survival. You're not in a place of preparation for fear's sake, of, oh my gosh, XYZ is going to happen. It's okay, I've got what I need. I've got food, I've got shelter, I've got batteries and candles and all sorts of, whatever it is that you need. It's a grounded energy. That's where the balance happens. And that's where I feel like there's a lot of spiritual bypassing too. Everybody, a lot of people in the spiritual community are like, oh, it's nothing's gonna happen. It's gonna, everything's gonna be fine. And I'm not saying this is what you're doing, but I'm saying generally everything's going to be fine, or it's not going to happen, or it's not going to impact me again, right? Me or mine, not worried about how it might be impacting other people. For myself, I was in overflow, and I had a resource in which I was able to get a lot of medical supplies, like women's products and bandages and stuff like that. And so I actually have a stock of medical supplies, not for me, but for so that if anything ever happens, I'm able to be of support. And I donated some of that to rescue missions, and I'm able to have that as a source of mutual aid if people need it. That kind of thing. There's a balance between um, you know, being spiritual and saying, I know that I'm gonna be okay no matter what, and also in your human sense being prepared, being logically practically prepared, taking those practical steps, right? Whereas in spiritual arrogance and spiritual ego will be like, oh, I'm fine, nothing's going to happen, I don't have to worry, I don't have to do anything, it's not going to affect me. It's I don't know quite know how to put it. There's a balance that's made. You don't bypass the human experience, you don't bypass collective reality. You can take those action steps in preparation, but the energy that you're holding is what's important. That you know you're going to be fine no matter what, that you have the resources, that you have the capacity, that you are prepared but not in a fearful way. It's not doomsday, stock up and put everything in a bunker kind of fear. That's what I'm talking about. Like that's overboard. That's fearful, right? That's where you're getting into ego, into the human ego. That's where you're getting into the survival mode and the survival mechanisms. There's a balance. There's a balance that has to be had. Okay, did you want to do a meditation? We can do a quick one. I'm getting this energy of the sun. Let's do a meditation where we bring in some light codes, we bring in some sun codes, creating more peace and calm and bringing those sun codes in, those light codes in for more healing, more calm, more peace. And I just got this energy of like you're carrying that with you. Like whoever's receiving this, whoever's gonna watch this after, or whoever's receiving this, like you're gonna carry this activation with you.